They are
I think we're all good.
brutal, without mercy. But you will be worse.
But yeah, very history with a lot of, honestly, a lot of games with a lot of rich history and a lot of impact in the game industry. It was interesting, kind of like these old games that really affected where shooters would be in future decades. I think that kind of faltered with Doom 3.
Yeah, Doom 3 is an interesting experiment.
I mean, it kind of fell to the wayside for a while. Then finally, I think, what was it, 2016? Yeah, I can understand it. Like, a lot of people were skeptical of how this title would be. They had some confidence in the developer. But, I mean, considering the track record of bringing in old games and, reviving them in current era, we have a lot of examples of that not working very well.
Yeah.
But here we are, seamless gameplay. We kind of just get into the action just from the get-go.
We have to contain.
It's got great sound design. It has the same flowing movement that like the originals have. This game doesn't mess around.
And it doesn't hold your hand, which is always appreciated.
Nope. It understands its audience. It knows a lot of gamers have been waiting for this sort of title for a very, very long time. We don't need to, like, re-explain this is how gun works. This is crouch. This is de-jump. It's like, no, they know. Gamers know.
Although I kind of wish that Doom 3 had been more, like, better. Because I do kind of dig the idea of taking, like, the Doom premise and making it a legit horror experience.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
As much as I love this game.
I think that was something that Quake 4 did better. I think, because it really brought the story into it, where a lot more of the horror genre kind of elements. But, at least there were attempts, but I do think Doom definitely has a better place of it. It puts action first before horror, but, never completely gets rid of the horror elements, obviously.
So if I may get on my soapbox for a minute.
Oh, get on it, sir.
My favorite thing about this game, and I'm comparing this directly to, say, Halo, right? Because they're very similar in how they approach their games, other than just, like, the momentum. They both have silent protagonists. They're they're kind of story-driven, and they're first-person shooters. This game...
I would say... Sorry.
Say what?
Sorry, continue.
This game builds a wonderful character for Doom Guy without him ever saying a word. And I wish more developers could do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wouldn't say that the original Doom games do much in terms of story. This one definitely a lot more so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just comparing it to this because I haven't played the originals.
But yeah, I mean, your comparison is apt because in many ways, the Master Chief was very much inspired by the original game Space Marine, that is, the Doom Guy, or Doom Slayer, rather. And I think the developers understood that. So the idea of committing to a silent protagonist instead of letting actions speak louder than words, it's not something that can be done with every sort of character, but it's definitely something that should be done with this kind of character. Especially if you want the player to just, this is an action-heavy game, we're not interested in, like, coddling the player, so let's let you just feel awesome and brutal and savage. And Doom Guy's character should reflect that. It shouldn't be... Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, if anyone who's watching this, you get that Master Chief is supposed to be the avatar for the character. But I just think that's really, or avatar for the player, not the character. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean...
I just think that's kind of boring, personally.
Well, technically, Halo tries to have it both ways. Because especially in recent years, Master Chief has gotten a lot more character-driven. And there are some subtle things where you can see, oh yeah, the Master Chief is more for something for the player to admire rather than for the player to get, inserted into. Not the case for Doom Guy.
Nope.
But it's tough to judge sometimes. Some players might prefer to have a character who's kind of a mystery and who slowly kind of reveals his character over many titles. Others may prefer this where it's straight and direct, and you know, almost a sense of like dark whimsy, like seeing how Doom Guy just really just does not care for any sort of world building and just wants to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I think in some ways it depends on taste, but there are ways to, like, you know, critique and analyze, you know, how well a certain title commits to what it's trying to do.
It cannot be allowed to leave this place.
You know, hopes for Halo Infinite. I love Doom and I love Halo. I hope the new title gives respect that the story, you know, probably desperately needs, especially after Halo 5, which really just...
I always think that Samuel Hayden here is,
Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now.
oh fuck, what's his name?
But it was worth the risk.
Samuel Hayden?
No, the voice actor, it always, to me, sounds like the guy from Aliens that plays Bishop.
Samuel... I'll look him up.
But seriously, just goddamn, this soundtrack is so good. Lance Henriksen, that's it.
Oh, yeah!
I don't think it is him, but it sounds like him.
Let's see, I think it's someone else, though. No, sorry. It's not Lance Henriksen, although that would have been cool. No, it's Darren DePaul, who himself is a tried and true voice actor. No, he has a rich history starting in the going as far back as the 80s. But he really came into his own starting in the 2000s and going from there. I know he's got...
The voice he's doing in this sounds a lot like Lance Henriksen.
I imagine that's... Well, it's tricky sometimes to gauge that sort of thing. Like, maybe perhaps that is purposeful, in which case not a bad idea to try like a voice homage.
Yeah.
But it could also be that, you know, as you get older, maybe just voices sound similar just by default, perhaps even based on age and experience. So sometimes it's just best to just like try to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Maybe there might be some further research that needs to be done.
And if anybody's watching this, we will continue The Walking Dead next week.
Yep.
Like I said, I was just in a Doom mood, and Milton was like, let's do it. And he's like, I mean, watch some twice.
Yeah. I consider, you know, The Walking Dead, obviously, because John gave the options. Like, yeah, story-driven stuff doesn't sound bad. Of course, when you brought up the fact that you had, like, just listening to the soundtrack of this game, which is awesome, it is... I mean, you can get, like, the orchestral soundtracks that, like, most AAA games will get, and it can be serviceable. It takes something truly special and someone with passion for the sort of thing to get the soundtrack that you get right here.
Well, and what's interesting, and this is an unverified source, so take it for what it is, but I have heard that Bethesda would not let him use guitars. And so some of the stuff that sounds like a guitar is actually a chainsaw.
That is interesting. In a way, that's not a bad choice. I mean, granted, most people would say, yeah, why would you not let a person use a guitar? There could be several reasons behind that. But there are many examples where you find like the most creative and the most awe-inspiring works to be born out of restriction in some ways. You know, limitation in some ways can actually be an agent for creativity.
Well, and I also have a feeling that Bethesda had little to no confidence in this game.
That is honestly not an unfair concern, you know, considering the track record of projects like this.
which just makes it all the cooler that this was so successful and like even in a way it's, made room. Sorry, I couldn't, like, my brain just died. Made room for the Wolfenstein games to be rebooted.
Yeah. Should the Wolfenstein come after this or before this?
I feel like it came after this, but I could be wrong.
I'm gonna look it up real quick just to make sure. Wolfenstein: The New Order was released in 2014. So actually,
so
I think
first. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like actually this. Ironically,
this owes something to Wolfenstein,
ironically, it seems that now Doom owes much more to Wolfenstein than in some ways Wolfenstein owed to Doom back in the day. It's funny how that works.
It's like poetry. It's circle. Right.
Yeah.
Would know all about that, wouldn't you, George?
Yeah.
That is a joke that nobody watching this will get.
I want Jar Jar to pick up a gun and kill demons.
Dude, imagine a Doom movie but with Jar Jar.
Well, I mean, we already have a disaster, with The Rock, but,
Hey, that is one of my favorite bad movies, okay? I adore that movie. It's fucking hilarious.
Imagine if Jar Jar was in that, though. That would
Have you actually sat through all the way through that?
No, I've seen clips, but I don't know, man. I feel like I've seen that sort of thing with Ghost of Mars, so...
No,
I'll be open to watching it.
way better than Ghost of Mars.
I'll be open to watching it, so I'll... But...
For one thing, it doesn't have all those stupid, like, transition things.
Yeah, I guess I have just a particular pet peeve for that sort of thing, but it's like when a cheap director tries to be art house.
Yeah, no, that movie knows exactly what it is.
Well, that's good.
Richard Brake is in it, and he's just a giant pervert in that movie. He's like, he goes up to these two women, he's like, excuse me, we're under like a level 5 quarantine. That means I am gonna have to strip search you ladies. And it's fucking hilarious because it's Richard Brake. Plus, Doom has better actors in it than anyone in Ghost of Mars.
Which is a shame because there are some good actors and actresses in Ghost of Mars, but they just... It's difficult to salvage anything because that project was managed so horribly.
Yeah. But, like, you got The Rock, you got Carl Urban.
Yeah, Carl Urban's great. The Rock can actually have a decent performance if he's working with the right people. Not that I think he's an inherently good actor, but you can get something out of him.
So, I don't know, I may get crucified for this, but I think he is this generation's Arnold. Where he's not like a great actor, but he's got enough charisma that he like overcomes that issue.
Yeah,
he's just not in as many good movies as Arnold was.
It's difficult to make the comparison sometimes because I can see where you're getting at it. It's just Arnold appeared. He was dedicated for one. He appeared at like the right era for that sort of thing. He has been involved in so many what people would consider to be quintessential movies.
Yeah.
And he knew his role and he fit into it fairly. He also had his fair share of stinkers as well. Some comedic roles in which he did well, some in which he didn't do very well at all.
Are you telling me that Jingle All the Way isn't a masterpiece?
But my point to say is The Rock has also had his share of like trying to do like other pictures that weren't him being like some tough guy. So I guess it's not, for those that might be, cynical of such a comparison, it's not completely without base.
And I think some of The Rock's best movies have been forgotten at this point. Because he had a couple of, like, early in his career, he was in The Rundown with Sean William Scott, which is really good. And he was in that remake of Walking Tall, which is also really good. and like nobody talks about those because he joined those stupid Fantastic Four. Fast and the Furious movies.
Sorry,
Yeah,
gonna dip out for 1 second, but I'll be right back.
I shouldn't have wasted that shot. Hey, get back here. I always have trouble aiming where I want the like glory kill to go. Alright, who's shooting at me? Who is the motherfucker who thinks they can shoot at me?
Sorry about that, got a call. But now I'm back.
Good. Man, let me just tell you, this has been a long week because it feels like it's been forever since I've talked to you.
Yeah, I mean, no, the thing is, we talk on a weekly basis, but it's just recently it's been weird.
Yeah.
Like my job situation has been like a little bit in flux. I've been a bit more involved because there are some people who I hang out with. Some don't have cars, so I guess I've been a bit more social in real life. I think in some ways people are getting an overdose of that sort of exposure because of, you know, the pandemic is... I mean, I don't want to speak too soon. I don't want to speak too soon, but I think it's over.